What's up YouTube, Justin Fuller here. Today I've got a 2023 Honda HR-V Sport sitting behind me. We're gonna go over all these new body style changes and of course, how it stacks up to the competition. So let's hop on in. So let's talk about what's underneath the hood of this 2023 Honda HR-V. So in the previous generation, you would have been looking at a 1.8 liter that puts out 141 horsepower. Now they've switched that over to a 2 liter, much like you'd find in the base model Civic, that's putting out now 158 horsepower. So they've upped the horsepower for this. So something to consider as you're searching around in comparison as far as horsepower. Now, while I'm talking about comparing, I want to throw something up on the screen so you can understand how this vehicle stacks up to other vehicles out there in the market in a comparison. So take a look at that and then we'll continue on down the road. All right guys, so as gas prices continue to climb, miles per gallon becomes very important to a lot of people. So this car is getting 26 in the city and 32 on the highway. If you were looking at a 2022, you would have still got that 26 in the city, but you would have only gotten 31 on the highway, so we're squeaking out an extra mile per gallon. While we're talking about miles per gallon, of course I want to throw up a comparison to other vehicles out there in the market so you understand how this car stacks up to those cars. So take a look at that and we'll keep on moving along. All right guys, so before we do a walk around on the outside of this vehicle and talk about different features, benefits, that sort of thing, I want to talk to you about the trim levels. So they've changed the trim level setup this year, so something to be aware of. Now there's an LX, the Sport that I'm sitting in, and an EXL. So they've eliminated that EX model. So if you're looking for something in the middle of the road, this is gonna be that specific vehicle. So before we jump to that walk around, I wanna talk to you about, hey, if I go from this Sport model and drop down to that LX, what am I losing as far as amenity-wise, and how much money am I saving? So I'm gonna throw that up on the screen so you can understand, hey, it's gonna save me X amount of dollars, but what am I really giving up? Now, after you've taken a look at that, let's talk about moving the other way. If I decide, hey, I like the Sport, but if I wanna jump up to that EXL, how much extra is it gonna cost me? And of course, what extras am I gonna get if I do that? So now that you've taken a look at both of those and understand kind of what I'm giving up to drop down and what I'm gaining to go up, let's do a walk around on the car. All right guys, so right off the get-go, you can tell that the front end of this vehicle has been changed from the previous generation. So you notice that the hood kind of continues down, and then I've got a different grille setup here as far as the front end goes. Now, one other thing they've changed is you now have LED setups, right? So LED daytime running lights and LED headlights. Now, as we come around here, I've got an 18-inch alloy wheel here, nice black finish on the Sport, something you typically see on a lot of the Sport trim levels of any Honda. So nice that they've continued this trim and this look to go with the car, because I think it is a good look. Now, you've got turn indicators in your mirrors, which a lot of times you would have found in the EXL models, and of course these are breakaways, so if anybody bumps one in the grocery store or anywhere like that, you're good to go. As we continue around to the back of the car, of course we have it a 4-door setup. They no longer have the secondary door opening right here, which is kind of nice, because what I ran into is that little ones, if you had kids, couldn't reach the door handle to get in, so you would constantly have to go and let them in. So something you may not have thought about before, but they've lowered that and changed it, so nice to know that they've done that. Now, as we wrap around to the back, same thing, you've got the LED setup. Of course, the Sport badge has been blacked out right here, so kind of a cool, nice look. HR-V, of course, in chrome. My look right here. Then I've got the brake indicator up top, and of course I've got my windshield wiper blades on here. So let's jump in and talk about cargo space. All right guys, so let's talk about what we got here in the back end. So I've got some tie downs that you can see, of course, right here. And then on the back of both seats, I'm gonna have my setups as far as tethers and anchors for car seats. Now, to throw your back seats down, you've got a tab right here that you can simply pull and then push your seats down. So now you can get an understanding for what that 58 cubic feet looks like. So I could throw a sleeping bag in there. 2 of us could if we needed to, and sleep in the back of this vehicle. So it is pretty spacious. Now back here, I'll point out that of course I've got a 12-volt outlet right here that I can use as well. I've got some lighting right here, privacy glass up here. Now, as I come down, this is where you're gonna find your spare, your jack, and all your accessories. So my jack, my accessories, and then of course, this mystery right here that I'll explain in just a second. And then underneath all of this foam right here, I've got my spare. So full diameter spare, full height, just not full width. Nice to know that you at least have one, as new cars tend to keep moving away from that. Now, if you don't know what this is, it's okay, because you're not alone. You could think, man, that's a tiny beer bong. Or, you know, maybe it's a Shiwi. And if you don't know what a Shiwi is, Google it, I dare you. It's funny. But let's talk about how this relates to gas. So when I come over to the gas, the first thing I want to point out is there are some changes here. So they've connected this to the door locks now to where the doors are unlocked. I can pop this open, and they have set it up to be capless. Or I should say, yeah, capless here, so that you don't have to use anything. You can just stick the gas still in it. Now, if you were to run out of gas, that is where this bad boy comes into play, because I need something to hold that open while I pour glass in it. So I'd be able to set this here and then be able to pour gas using whatever I have, right? Whether it be a water bottle, a jug, you know, whatever I have, maybe my gas, if you actually have a gas holder, right? Something of that nature, right? So that is what this is for, and these are the changes that you'll see right here. All right, guys, so here I am in the second row of this Honda HR-V, and they've made some significant changes. So the first thing I want to talk about is just the materials and the finish that you're going to see here. So as I pull you kind of in, you're going to see that it's got a black finish here with an orange trim, very much sport indicative. And then I love that the pattern that they've done here with the texturing, right? So a good look. That continues as you move across here. So they've done leather here, so you'll find leather here, here, and on the steering wheel and the shifter. Typical on sports and pretty much any version of the Honda you find, whether it be a Civic, an Accord, that sort of thing. And then of course I've got speakers living down low and then speakers up front. And then they've changed the lights here, so a little bit more, I guess, sleek looking. And then the headliner's a little bit different too. Now, in the back seat, so currently I'm sitting behind if I set the seat up, because I was driving this earlier, right? And I'm about 6 foot 250, so I'm a reasonably sized person. And I've still got quite a bit of leg space behind me. So you're looking at 37.7 inches of leg space in the back of this vehicle. So I want to stop for a second and just throw up a comparison so you can see how this car stacks up to some of the other vehicles out there in the market, so you can really understand where it lives. So take a look at that, and then next we'll jump into the front seats and talk about that. All right, guys, so here I am in the front row of this vehicle, and once again, plenty of leg space. You've actually got 41.9 inches of leg space in the front of this vehicle. So I'm gonna throw that comparison up on the screen so you can see how this car stacks up to other vehicles out there in the market. And then we're gonna talk about some of the changes you're gonna see, right? So the theme that we saw in the back seat was, of course, let me grab this and swing you through here, was that black with, of course, the orange trim and then the textured finish that you see right here. And then it, of course, comes across here, and then you see that same texturing, and you'll see some changes here. Now I've got this drop through here where USB lives. So could I plug my phone in and tuck it under here with the wires? Yeah, I got a feeling it's gonna be a jumbled mess, to be honest, but I could do it, right? And then of course I have somewhere to store up here with some more space, and then of course a USB here. So I've got a couple of USBs that I can work with, and I've actually got a third one over here on the other side. So you've got 3 USBs in the front of this vehicle. Now over here you're gonna see the drive modes, and what they've done here drive mode wise is flipping over to this. They've made this full digital, much like you see in the Civic and the Accord. So very cool. So I've got snow, I've got eco, and then I've got normal. So normal, of course, being just a normal drive mode, you switch over to eco. It's improving gas mileage but affecting shifting points. And then snow, hey, I need to improve my traction control. So how can I do that with shifting points and whatnot as far as the drivability of the vehicle? So a lot of the big changes are gonna be right in front of us. So here in a second, we're gonna walk through all of this and talk about it together. Now, I don't think I need to explain too many of the buttons here, other than knowing that you have auto up-down windows, your window locks, your door locks, and then of course your power mirror controls here. Now over here, you're gonna see that I have my vehicle stability assist right here, and then of course I've got my hood release right down here. Then my trunk release is gonna be connected to the door locks along with my gas release as well. Now on the steering wheel here, I've got a couple different things going on here. Of course, my home button is gonna take me to all of these different options right here that I can scroll through. Now with this, I'm just using the simple scroll button right here. This will take me through all these different options. So if I want driver attention monitors, speed and time, right? So some of my fuel and range and things of that nature, which can be very important to you if this is a commuter vehicle. Things like warnings, right? If people aren't wearing seatbelts, or if we leave a door open or the back isn't completely open. Of course, my gauge display right here, different settings that I can control, take things away, put things in, that sort of thing. Jumping into settings, always nice to have your different settings and things that you can access and kind of work through here. So know that you got a lot of different things here, whether you want to jump into your TPMS, right? Your driver assisted setup, which is going to be part of your Honda sensing package. Forward collision warning distance. So if I haven't talked about forward collision warning yet, what it does is it uses a camera up here and the radar to detect cars in front of you. So if it's looking like I'm going to rear end another car, it'll actually start to apply the brakes to help prevent the accident. So I can affect that distance right here. So that's what this feature is, and I'm going to explain what that is over here in just a second, how some of these features work, right? So as I jump down, ACC, that's going to be the same technology, but related to adaptive cruise control, which we'll get to in here in just a second. Now, road departure mitigation. If I start to drive off the shoulder of the road, the car will give me an audible alert to say, hey, wake up, pay attention, you're leaving the road. Now, you also have lane keep assist, which lives right here, related to safety features, uses that camera that lives up here to detect those lines on the road. So if I drift to the left or the right out of my lane, it'll correct and keep me centered. So very cool. If you've ever been in a car that feels like it pulls a little bit one way or the other, that's the feeling. So it's not going to overpower you, but it will keep you from accidentally drifting out of your lane if you happen to be distracted. Now, as we continue to move on, lane keep assist we just talked about. Blind spot information system, I will point that out. Let me roll down the windows here real quick. I've got some icons of a car that you'll see right there that will light up whenever there's somebody in my blind spot. If I start to get over even while that's lit up, it'll actually beep inside the car to let me know, hey, there's somebody there to help protect us from getting in an accident. So safety-wise, you've got a lot of different on in the vehicle. Traffic sign recognition is a really cool feature. So if I have this on, when I'm driving down the road, it'll pick up any traffic sign. It'll actually tell me what the speed limit is. So while GPS and things like that can help you to get an idea, when you go through work zones and things like that, they typically don't know that the speed has changed, right? Why not have something that can display right there to prevent you from getting accidents, especially if you're taking a long trip? Because let's be honest, this car gets good gas mileage. You're probably going to use this to commute some, right? So just some different things that you want to be aware of. I'm going to leave that feature on. That's your standard default, right? So let's back out of this and continue on down here, or actually I should say up as we move. So brightness, you understand what that is, and then if I just want a blank screen here, and then my safety support, that's some of those features we were just talking about. So you know, the Honda sensing stuff. So right here, road departure mitigation. Of course, these are all on currently. Blind spot information system and your collision mitigation braking. That's to prevent me from hitting a car in front of me. Know that you can turn all of these on and off. So plenty of different features that you can access in here, and of course a digital display, and then on the right side my analog as far as my speed. So easy enough to understand. The rest of these buttons are pretty simple. You know, your volume controls, your source, right? Jump between USB, Bluetooth, whatever it may be, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, those sort of things, right? That would be your options. And then of course switching tracks, right? Now this button would be for Bluetooth control. I could press and hold this and say call so-and-so, that sort of thing. Or I can press and hold till I hear the beep for Siri or OK Google, and then use it from that aspect from the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto option, right? Jumping over to the other side, this is where we're gonna find some of those Honda sensing controls. The first being Lane Keep Assist. When I press this button, you'll see this icon come on right there. And that's saying it's now ready and active. Once you're going over 45 miles per hour, it'll start to pick up the lines in the road, and that way if you drift to the left or right, it'll keep you centered. Now, if you're using adaptive cruise control, you'll get up to your speed and you'll set the speed, right? And when you do that, you'll see an icon come on right here with a little thing basically pointing. It looks exactly like this. Now, once you've got up to your speed, you can select the distance it keeps between you and the car in front of you with this button right here. So the more boxes that I see up here, the more it's gonna keep space between me and the car in front of me, right? So easy enough to understand, right? If I don't feel comfortable and I want plenty of space, I want more boxes, right? So that's how that works. Now, if you're concerned that, hey, that's cool and all, but what if I just want classic cruise control? You can press and hold this button for a couple seconds, and it'll say cruise mode selected, and it'll turn it off. I'm gonna press it again, and now I've turned it back on. So know that you can use a classic cruise control or a classic. So easy enough. On this side, you've got your auto on-off headlights that you control, your windshield wipers, and then control the rear windshield wipers. Easy enough to do right there. So let's talk about that screen right there. Here we are on this 7-inch touchscreen, right? So for the most part, everything looks pretty generic because you're gonna work through for, you know, radio setup and whatnot, right? So I've got my radio button down here. I've got a phone button where I can jump over to my Bluetooth to access my contacts, place calls, receive calls, that sort of thing. I've got a media button that I can press that'll allow me to jump to USB, Bluetooth. Of course, I have Android Auto running, and then if I want to connect up to Android Auto, boom, press that, and it'll connect up, right? So easy enough to do. It is a wired CarPlay setup, so just a heads up on that. You are going to need to plug your phone in if you plan to use, you know, Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Now, speaking of that, if you're interested in having wireless CarPlay, for 150 bucks, I'm doing a review on this. It's kind of cool. This is the light version. It does some different things as far as access to Netflix, wireless CarPlay, Android Auto, that sort of thing. If you really want to get crazy and be able to download any app you want and do a lot, I've already done a review on their full AI setup. So I'll throw a link up there so you can check out that video in case you want to learn a little bit more about that. Because hey, for 150 bucks, if I could, you know, gain some of these things, maybe it's worth it. Or for about 300 bucks, I can get a whole lot of access to different things. So just something to consider. Now let's jump in here as far as you know, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You're gonna have all your access to things like Spotify, Pandora, any of your music apps. If you're a maybe you're a podcast listener, maybe you're a books on you know, recorded books person, then you can absolutely access any of that. So Teams, all these different apps that are forever changing and upgrading. My Messenger and different things that I can access. Waze, Google Maps. So Apple Maps. So if you're an Apple user and you really want to use that, know that you can take advantage of these and different other options like TomTom and whatnot. So know that that's what this is giving you, right? So the ability to access these apps. And now, of course, great that you have this. Nice that you have the touchscreen. It's nice. It's displayed here. It's sitting upright, so easy to see. Don't catch a lot of glare off it because I do get a lot of sun, especially here in Texas. So this makes it a very useful app, and it's just nice looking, right? Gives the car a little bit of a nicer look. So that's what you have going on as far as the touchscreen goes. Not a whole lot to it. I will say that if you jump into things like the menu, they have really dumbed down the settings, right? Which maybe is a good thing, maybe is a bad thing for you. I don't know. So as far as accessing sound settings, Bluetooth, clock, smartphone, this sort of thing, it is very damned down. And when I say that, I mean, they're only gonna give you a couple options, right? When you jump into these things, you're not gonna have a lot of customization. One of the things I really loved about the Civic, the display screen, and you know, older vehicles like this is they gave you a lot of optionality, giving you the ability to customize your vehicle a little bit more. They've really limited that. So as Hondas have changed, yes, they're giving you access to things like this where maybe you don't care if you can, you know, customize it yourself. However, I hate that they're doing that. Why put me in a box? Just let me play in the sandbox and have fun. Now, when it comes to the run to the dash, you're gonna notice that this mimics the Civic. So all of this is gonna look very familiar. If you've looked at a Civic, you're gonna see this that landed recently inside of the vehicle. The big changes here in the cabin, of course, the materials, and then this center stack that we talked about with the 3 different drive modes, some traction control settings, an electronic parking brake and brake hold, which will just hold the car's brake while you're in drive. So it's good for like stop and go traffic. You just have to have your seatbelt on to use it. I will point out that the Sport also has heated seats, so kind of cool that they've added in. Typically you would see that land in an EX or an EXL. You're now finding that in the Sport model of the vehicle. So a lot of cool features that they've added into this vehicle. All right, guys, we've made it through the entire vehicle as far as all the different comparisons and of course pointing out some features and of course some different changes that they've done in this new 2023 body style. So I want to come back quickly through all those in case you need a reminder or a, you know, a repeat or whatever it may be, or you just don't want to press rewind, right? So let's start at the front of the car. Let's talk about horsepower. This car previously had 141 horsepower. They have bumped it up to 158 horsepower coming out of a 2-liter engine. So I'm going to throw that comparison up so you can see how this car stacks up to other vehicles out there in the market. After you take a look at that, let's talk about miles per gallon. This car gets 26 in the city and 32 on the highway. If you were looking at the previous generation, you would lose 1 mile off of that highway, so not a huge change there, but hey, as gas gets more expensive, maybe that's important to you, and let's be honest, it's pretty good gas mileage for something I can stack some people in and throw some cargo in, right? So moving into the front seat, I want to say you have 41-something inches as far as leg space in this vehicle. As a 6-footer, I've got so much space in front of me that I don't know what to do with, right? And I can fit somebody behind me who's got extra leg space too, so I want to throw, of course, the comparison of front leg space up on the screen so you can see what that looks like. And then secondarily, let's talk about that second row. You saw me, I sat behind myself. I have plenty of leg space to work with, so know that you can take advantage of that. So let's throw that comparison up on the screen so you can see how this car stacks up to other vehicles out there in the market. Now, when you jump into that very back end, we talked about 2 different options here. One, if I have the seats folded up, how much leg space do I have? And of course, how does it stack up? So I'm gonna throw that up on the screen so you can understand how this car stacks up to others, which is general cargo space, right? Now, if I'm willing to flip those seats down, I believe it goes to like 58 cubic feet of space. So I want you to see how this car stacks up to other vehicles out there in the market. So I'm gonna throw that comparison up on the screen as well. So that is a lot of the comparisons. Now let's talk about the changes and what I think about them, right? So they've eliminated the EX model, right? So now you've got an LX, you've got a Sport and an EXL. Earlier we talked about, hey, if I drop down to the LX, what am I saving as far as cash goes? So I'll throw that up on screen. Of course, what features am I giving up? So take a look at that. And then we talked about the other side of that. If I am in the Sport, I want to go up to that EXL, the top of the line, right? How much more am I going to spend? And of course, what am I getting for that, right? What am I getting for the money? So understand that they've made some changes there. Outside of that, they've made some changes to the interior that I really do like. There's no air vents in the second row, which I think is stupid. Let's be honest, if you live somewhere hot, just put them in there, right? Just do it. Of course, if you want a powered seat, the only one you're gonna find it in is an EXL, and it's only gonna be in the driver's seat. You're not gonna get in the passenger seat, which is kind of, when I'm starting to spend, you know, close to 30 grand, I kind of expect to get certain things, right? The touchscreen, they've done some cool things with. They flipped it up, right? It's more of a, I guess, traditional or nice look, right? Sleek to go with the front end, with the theme that I think they have done well, right? They've made some different changes to the liner, the interior, the lighting, things like that, that make the car look nicer. I hate that they've dumbed it down, right? Give me the customization. Let me play with this. If it's an Android setup, don't lock everything up away from me. Give me the ability to play. You know, you have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Of course, if you want the wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, you can always jump over to one of these for $150. You know, I'll throw a code and everything up for that if you want to check it out. I'm making a video on the light version. I've already made a video on the full version, which I'll throw up on the screen so you can check that out. It'll be at the end too, where if you want to have wireless CarPlay, you want to be able to download any app you want. You want Netflix, you want Amazon Prime, you want Kodi, all those different things. You can download it, you can save to an SD card. There's all kinds of different things that you can do. It's pretty cool. And what I like about it is it's portable, so whereas most of the time you would have replaced the head unit, which you saw this head unit, you're not replacing this now. The way it's set up, I don't know that you can add in a third-party head unit. You're kind of stuck with what you got. How nice is it that you could have something portable that you could take out of this car, move it into the next car, or if you're going on a road trip, you can hop in the wife's car, you can hop in a friend's car, and be able to plug it in, use it there, and then pull it right back out and put it in your car. So some cool things that these guys are doing, and they've been nice enough to provide me with them to show you, right? So that is a 2023 Honda Civic. It's not a Civic, but it kind of is because it has the old Civic engine in it. The front end, kind of wonky. I'm not a super huge fan of that, but let's be honest, guys. If you're looking for a car that gets decent gas mileage, that has some cargo space, sits a little bit higher off the ground, and gives me the ability to load some people into it, this is not a bad option. It's using an old Civic engine in it, which, hey, it's a Civic, right? They do pretty darn well. You just have to decide if you like the look of this car and if all these features are worth the money to you. If they are, hey, I wish you the best of luck. If you have questions, comments, concerns about the car, I hope you do a couple things. One, press the like button because it makes me feel good inside. And of course, push that video a little bit higher up, right? So that I don't have to do things like that. Secondary, I hope you leave a comment if you have questions about this car. Hopefully I can answer if I get to them, or others in this group will gladly answer to help you out as well. And then two, share the video, man. If you got a friend who's looking, I hope you'll share it because let's be honest, there's a lot of content out there and I like to think that I do a pretty good job as far as explaining it, if you can keep up with my fast talking. Sorry, slow listeners. Lastly, I hope you'll subscribe to the channel so that I can show you anything about a Honda, anything about products that guys send me that work with Hondas, and of course, tips and tricks and all the other things that I do. Other than that, appreciate you for tuning in, and later, guys!